Hello everybody and welcome to part 14 of the Blender 2.80 Absolute Beginners course. In this video we're gonna start with a sphere instead of cube, and in the edit mode we will learn more about deleting stuff. So as you have seen in the previous video, I very briefly started deleting faces, so let's maybe start with it. When you press X in the edit mode, you have multiple options to choose from. So starting from the most probably commonly used ones are those three, which mean deleting vertices, edges, faces. And a cool thing and interesting thing is, no matter in which mode you are, you can delete anything. So let's say I have a face selected right now and I'm in the face mode, but I can still delete the vertices. And you can see we have a very big hole when we decide to delete this way, and if we just delete the faces, the hole is smaller. The reason for that is pretty logical. Um, each face is built of 4 corner or vertex points, um, doesn't matter how you call it, and if you decide to delete them, if we delete the vertices, we are also deleting a part of all those faces around our selection. So that's why we are getting this huge opening. And if we decide to delete the face only, that means the vertices, edges, and everything building up this face will remain untouched. So if we, let's say, decide to delete edges, the situation is similar, but the vertices are still in their positions. So this is pretty interesting because depending on what what you want to achieve, choosing a right option will be very essential. Um, so again, if I delete this one vertex here, I'm actually creating a hole of this size because this one point, and if we go to the wireframe, this is more visible. You can see it kind of creates this gradient of color along the edges, and that means this one point belongs to those 4 edges. So when I delete it, those 4 edges are gone as well. If I have two, uh, I have two vertices selected, we have again a gradient going here and here, and a solid color here, meaning we have a full edge selected. So now when I go to the edge mode, you can see this will be highlighted. And again, if I delete just the edge itself, we are just destroying those two faces because it's creating them, but we keep everything around untouched. If I delete the vertices, I'm deleting those corner points that build up all those faces around them. And if I click delete face, nothing happens because we have no face selected for now. Another interesting way of using the delete tool, I guess we can call it a tool, are using the only edges and faces and only faces options here. So what it does, let's say we select a number of faces like this, and if I press X and choose only faces, you can actually see the grid or the mesh of the mesh, grid of the mesh is still here untouched. So if I switch to the vertex mode, you can see I'm still able to select what is left of our faces that were here. So I can move it around. Another way, if I choose only edges and faces, you can see the vertex point here and here. They are all still present within the mesh. So yeah, again, this is pretty useful. Sometimes you might want to extract just the vertex points, let's say, from this kind of selection. And to do that, you need to choose an option that fits best for your needs. So it's going to be this one in this situation. You might see we still have some edges visible here, but we can delete them by using this option. And I think, yeah, our vertices will be just the only thing left within this area. So you can see I can move them around, and yeah, that's another example how you can use the delete tool. Since we are talking about deleting stuff, I want to show you one more thing. So I've created this circle, and when I enter the edit mode, you might remember from one of the previous videos that I was playing with geometry like this, just by extruding it within the z-axis and scaling into different directions. So let's say we will create stuff that looks like this, and in the end we want to merge everything to a single point. So we want to close those open holes within our object like that. How we can do this? Let's see this bottom here, for example. So you could probably do what I'm thinking, what's a very intuitive solution, and that's just scaling all the points into a one single point. So when I press S and type 0 on my keyboard and press enter, you can see we now have a single point. And by the way, when I zoom in, this is what's happening. This is a clipping in the viewport. This is the situation where having an orthographic view, which I mentioned before, we can switch between them here, is pretty useful because it never clips the view, so we can zoom as close as we want, which is not possible within the perspective view. Anyways, you can see I've merged everything into a single point right now, and you might think that's already case closed, but not really. So you can see when I click within the corner of the object, I have a strange situation. I mentioned before, if a vertex is a part of an edge, it then shines this color gradient along the edges it belongs to. So this one edge here belongs to those, sorry, this one vertex here belongs to those two edges. So if we select a point here, it should illuminate all of the edges around, but that's not actually happening. It just shines light, or shines this color gradient to one of the edges. And why is that? The reason is we scaled all the points into 0, meaning all those vertices we had, they are still present here. They only share the same location. So if I click and grab, you can see I'm able to still move those points around. And this is a situation we really want to avoid because it causes a lot of bugs. So how do we fix this? There are two ways, or maybe more, but I know two of them. The first one, which is the fastest, would be selecting all of the points here, and now you can see we have this cool gradient of colors. We select all of the points by using a box selection. So again, I will repeat it. Let's deselect everything, go to wireframe mode, and with the select tool I do the box selection, meaning I have everything within the box selected right now. And we can go to the vertex and choose remove double vertices. When I click it, you can see a pop-up here telling us how many vertices were removed, meaning they were merged into one point. So now when I click it, you can see just by the single click we have this one point selected, and it moves everything together with it. Yeah, so another way of doing that, I will just undo my operation, would be using a merge tool. And the merge tool works in similar way, but gives us a bit more options. So let's select everything as I did before, go to the vertex, and we have merge vertices. And when I click it, you can see we have three options to choose from. If I click center, we will have everything merged same way as with the remove doubles tool. So a single point again. And you could see we also have an option to merge at the cursor. So let's say I move the 3D cursor here, and when I press Alt M, which is a shortcut for this operation, when I press Alt M, I can choose this option here. So now the points are still merged into a single point, but they are also moved to the location of the 3D cursor, which is pretty handy later. That's a very useful technique in my opinion. This is a simple example how it could be utilized, but later I'm pretty sure we're gonna use it more often. A merge tool gives us a few more options to choose from, but they weren't active. So let's say we're gonna do a point by point selection like this. Let's select a couple of points and press Alt M. So now you can see we have additional things added to the list. We have the first and last options here. So the names are pretty self-explanatory. When I choose first, the whole merge operation will be the whole points will be merged to the first point I have selected. When I choose last, obviously this will be a last point. So again, this is pretty useful. Let's say we have a cube object and we want to merge everything to this point here. Let's say we want to merge this face, this top face, to this point. We could move a 3D cursor to this location and just choose the cursor option. But instead of doing that, we can simply create a selection, and then let's say, oh, I forgot if that was the first point or if it wasn't. We can just, holding a shift key, deselect it and select it again, and then it's definitely the last point of this selection. So when I press Alt M and choose the last option, you can see sorry, you could see everything is now merged to this last point here. So this is a pretty handy option, especially when again we do 3D modeling and we want to create a shape, rectangular shape for example. This is a very handy way of doing it. So I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot from it. In the next part we will finally create our first 3D models, first 3D scene created just from the scratch, 3D modeling everything. So I really hope you enjoyed that portion of information. As always, try practicing it a little bit yourself, and see you in the next video, which is gonna be amazing. Bye bye.